Welcome to another edition of dietary Unspoken, where we discuss stuff we typically talk about, but probably should. And we're here, season 6, episode 1, talking about nutrition. Oh, I love this subject because it's so contentious. There's so many people who have their opinions and ideas about, what is good nutrition and, different diets and fad foods and eating. And I'm looking forward to bringing this edition or these episodes to you because we're going to get some experts in the field also talk about that because they're way more knowledgeable than me. Being a HMPE teacher, you have a bit of an idea from what we've read and learned, but it's such a good one. Like even now at school, we have parents and often people will complain that, what the information we give to kids is setting up for eating disorders. And look, it's not about that. It's actually just making informed decisions to and empower our kids. So look, here we are, season 6, episode 1. And what are we going to talk about? Well, we know basic energy movement of calories and kilojoules. We know that there's a lot around mental health, especially eating disorders, especially with our young ladies around anorexia and bulimia. They're the two big ones, especially anorexia. It's a massive epidemic at the moment. In fact, I know people who are now part of this thing where they're doing in Facebook groups and chat groups where they're doing the either 500 or even the 200 calorie club where people are congratulating each other by eating less than either 500 or 200 calories. And it's just insane how bad it is for us. Like, give you an example. I heard someone say to me, "Hey, sir, one of the girls in our groups, grade 11, shouted out and said, 'Hey, I only had an apple and a half today.'" And she got all these thumbs up, like saying, "You're winning, congratulations." Well, it's just reinforcing through the peer group, which we know is really one of the most powerful things with our young teenagers. It just encourages them to keep going and even eat less. It is scary. What is the pop culture thing doing? What's our vulnerabilities around food? Do we have a good relationship with food? And when we deliver this podcast, again, this podcast is for you just to reflect on what you're doing. It's not ever to tell you what to do. It's trying to get some thoughts out there. It's talk about, stuff we don't typically talk about, but probably should around diet and nutrition, because if we believe what Tony Robbins says, he says our mental health is all determined on our physical health, so our movement and our diet. So, there's heaps of diets, as I said, there's heaps of different diets. There's gluten-free diets, which often celiacs have to have gluten-free because it's the way that's happened in the body. They've got intolerance, they have to eat that way. There's the Atkins diet, low carbs, high protein, high fat. There's carbohydrate loading. A lot of athletes use that before they do long-distance activities. There's intermittent fasting, which is a huge trend these days over the last 5 or 10 years. There's low-fat diets. There's plant-based diets, vegetarian diets. There's alkaline diets. There's detox diets. There's things like paleo, like the old hunter and gather where we eat fruit, vegetables and meats off the land. All different types of diets out there. So, people used to say go back to the healthy eating pyramid or now the healthy eating plate and look at the different dimensions of what you should be eating based on the Australian healthy eating diet guidelines. And that's well and good. But the trouble is we are so influenced these days by pop culture, fashion, how we should look. And also about the different foods out there that sort of connect us to emotional eating, which a lot of us do. So we're going to go through a series and talk about certain things and, again, a little bit of education, get speakers on here to actually give us a real good feel of what we should be eating, what kind of foods we should be looking for our optimal health. Because to me, there's 2 analogies I want to think about. And number one is people have like intermittent fasting, and I know there's starting to be research around that, and there's a lot of people who are on that bandwagon saying, look, it's really important. I know that if I'm teaching kids towards the back end of lesson 2, so they've come to school and they've got period 1, period 2, and then they have their first break. That first break's not until 10:50 in the morning. Now, picture yourself if you're sitting here and picture yourself back in being a teenager and all the energy demands that you need and all your brain energy it requires, especially, our brains need healthy fat. In fact, they say that the energy our brain uses could actually light up a 20-watt light bulb. So thinking of that, and then if the kids don't have breakfast, our students don't have breakfast, and they've eaten, say, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock the night before, we're talking about 15, potentially 16 hours of the kids not having any nutritional food for their brains, number one, and their bodies. To couple that with technology and distractions and a lack of focus, I'm not quite sure that having no breakfast is a great thing for kids. And I'll often hear the kids say, well, I don't usually have breakfast, or I've never been that way. I don't know. Get them towards 10:50 in the morning, and then might be some social peer group pressure around eating at school. Makes it very hard for these kids to focus. So not a big fan of our kids not having breakfast, and that's just a personal opinion based on what I've seen. And the second thing I want you to think about is one person that actually gave me this analogy and said, hey, Woody, you actually own a motorbike, don't you? And I said, yeah, I own a motorbike. It's a nice bike. It's a CBR 1000. It's a racing bike. It's quick. It looks great. I love riding it. And they said, what kind of fuel do you put in that bike? And I said, I'll put, the best of the best. I'll put the premium fuel in it. He goes, oh, so you pay the extra and you get good fuel. Yeah. What do you do that for? And I said, well, I want it to perform. It's a great bike. Why would I want to waste something that's, fairly expensive and want to perform really well? And they said, well, why would you do that to your body? If your body is your machine, why would you put junk food into it? Because that's the only body you have. Wouldn't you want to make it the best machine you can? So why don't you fuel it, i.e. the food you put into it, to make it the best performance you can have? And I went, that's great. I love that analogy. I love it. I use it all the time with the kids. So look, we're going to have a deep dive into each of these kind of ideas and areas, guest speakers in, like I said, to talk about some things that can hopefully get some home truths in for you to support you, and also maybe the people you deal with, kids, peers, work colleagues, other parents, and hopefully it can get you off to a great start into, and you might already be on a great track, but maybe give you the edge of actually feeling good and actually help with not only your physical health, but also your social, emotional, and mental health and your well-being too. And that's the goal for this. So look, here's a challenge for your journal. And again, really encouraging journal writing. There's a lot of research going to that recently about, what the importance is to getting your thoughts down on paper. So number one, write down a daily meals for the day. Like even, listen to this podcast, tonight when you go home, write down all the things you've eaten today. Just write them down. Put them down, all the things. Number two, then go through and highlight or tick or cross or give yourself a rating for each of those things you've eaten. Are they meeting your energy needs? Is it perfect for what you're doing day in, day out? And have a really good critical think about that. And it's okay to have junk food and eat stuff in moderation. We know all that. It's not about, really critically analysing yourself and feeling bad about maybe some unhealthy choices you've had. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But it's about, has it matched your energy needs? And number three, are you actually providing premium fuel for your engine? Are you actually thinking about the things that you're putting in your body? Is it actually going to make your body the premium energy, not only to look good, but actually to feel good? Again, working on those emotions. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Season 6 and Episode 1 Nutrition, and I look forward to talking to you on the next podcast when we go into Episode 2 and have a deep dive into some of those other things that we've talked about in our introduction here to nutrition. Thanks for joining us on GW Unspoken.